There are nights that glitter with chandeliers and laughter, where joy seems to echo from every corner of the ballroom. Yet still in the shadows, a small heart stands unnoticed. A girl in a deep blue dress, her lips pressed tight, her eyes bright with thought. A girl who cannot hear the world's music, and so the world turns away. Until one evening, a young woman steps forward, lifting her hands to speak in another language, the language of true listening. And in that moment, the course of 3 lives quietly changes forever. Crystal chandeliers spilled rainbows across the high ceilings of the Marigold Hotel, where New York's elite glided in gowns and tuxedos, glasses chiming in a symphony of crystal and jazz. Among the crowd, where beauty seemed to bloom effortlessly beneath the lights, Lily Hart stood pressed into the edges of the room. 28, dressed in the only black dress she owned, she was not there to dazzle, but to work. Tonight she was an interpreter, hired for the hospital's fundraising gala. She needed the paycheck more than she needed the sparkle. Stand still, smile, and be ready, if called, the agency coordinator had told her. Simple enough, yet here she felt like a ghost, unseen in a sea of perfection. She scanned the glittering faces, waiting for one glance to ask for her help. Nothing, until her eyes caught someone. A girl 16 dressed in midnight blue, half hidden behind a marble pillar, still in a room that pulsed with sound. Her gaze followed the mouths of others with intense concentration, her slender shoulders tight, her diamond earrings catching the light, but not her attention. Lily stopped. She knew the girl was deaf, and no one was speaking to her. Then came the swell of noise like a tide. The grand doors opened. Victor Langston, the tech magnate guest of honor, swept in. Salt and pepper hair, a presence that bent the air around him. Cameras flashed, voices called his name. People crowded, desperate for a handshake. Lily turned just enough to see the girl in blue watching him. Her eyes a strange mixture of pride and bitterness. Her father. But he didn't look her way. Not once. No one did. Lily inhaled deeply, then crossed the room. When she stopped in front of the girl's eyes widened in astonishment, as if she had never expected anyone to come near. "Hello," Lily smiled, her hands moving fluidly. "I'm Lily. And you?" The girl's face broke open, the mask of coolness falling away to reveal a smile so radiant it startled Lily's heart. "I'm Ava." Her fingers danced quick as birds. "You know sign language? Are you deaf too?" "No, I'm an interpreter," Lily signed back gently. "I work sometimes at the children's hospital your father supports." Ava's eyes dimmed, the smile faltering. "I'm only here so they can use me in photographs." The bitterness etched in her hands told Lily everything Ava was used to being an ornament, not a voice. "Then while we wait," Lily tilted her head. "Would you like to talk?" Ava laughed. A laugh without sound, yet more alive than anything around them. "God, yes. My eyes ache from reading lips all evening," her fingers teased. "Do you know how many people ask me, 'Can you lip read?' Then they puff their cheeks and pout like I'm 5. Lily chuckled. "Or they shout as if deafness equals stupidity." "Exactly," Ava's hands flew. "Or the best one. Once they know I'm deaf, they talk to the person beside me as if I vanish." As they spoke, Lily watched Ava's shoulders loosen, her face growing brighter than the diamonds at her ears. "What grade are you in?" Lily asked. "Final year at Riversdale. Regular school, but with a program for deaf students. Friends? Not many." "Because you're Langston's daughter." A small nod. "The hearing kids think I'm stuck up. The deaf kids say I'm privileged, that I don't understand their struggles." Lily was quiet. "That sounds lonely." "I'm used to it." Ava shrugged, though her eyes carried the weight of it. "At least I have art. I paint. Not too badly." "I'd love to see your paintings," Lily said truthfully. From across the ballroom, laughter soared, champagne sparkled, and Victor Langston basked in his circle of light. Yet, here in the hush of the corner, 2 strangers had discovered a language beyond sound. A private connection, warmer and truer than any glittering toast could ever be. The ballroom still shimmered like a Broadway stage, and Victor Langston was the star at its center. He moved through the donors with the grace of someone who had rehearsed all his life. His gestures polished, his laughter spilling into the crowd. Cameras flashed, applause rippled, and from the corner, Ava's eyes, though trained to appear detached, slipped toward him again and again, a storm of longing and sorrow beneath their calm. "Your father looks busy," Lily signed gently. Ava's smile curved sharp with bitterness. "He's always busy. Langston Tech doesn't run itself." Her hands carved the air with rehearsed precision, words she had clearly repeated so many times they had hardened into armor. "He built an empire after my mother died. I'm proud of him." But the way she shaped proud was hollow, as though pride had been learned by rote, not felt. "When did she pass?" Lily asked, careful not to break something fragile. "When I was 7, her hands slowed heavy, as though memory itself weighed them down. Before that, the house was full of music. Strange, isn't it? My mother was a pianist. She taught me to feel music through vibration, through the light in her face when she played. After she died, the music stopped. My father buried himself in work, and I became the problem to be solved." Ava's fingers slashed the air. The problem being the deaf daughter, doctors, surgeries, therapies. Her movements turned cold, sharp as glass. "He wanted to fix me, but he never learned to sign, not one word. Instead, interpreters filled the house, faces that changed constantly, strangers in our kitchen. He spoke to them, not to me. Even at home, he talked about me as though I weren't in the room, and I sat there invisible." A surge of anger rose in Lily. How could a man who commanded the world fail at the simplest thing, listening to his own child? "I'm so sorry," Lily signed, her hands trembling. Ava shrugged. "I'm used to it. Doesn't matter." But her eyes flicked past Lily's shoulder, shifting in color. "That's him." Lily turned. Victor was striding toward them, trailed by a photographer and a sleek woman with a tablet. He stopped, looked at his daughter, and spoke slowly, enunciating every word for her to lip read. "Ava, it's time for the photos." He didn't glance at Lily. The woman smiled politely, gesturing Ava forward. And as if a mask slid into place, Ava's face smoothed into something flawless, untouchable. Before stepping away, she signed swiftly to Lily. "See, he doesn't even ask who you are or why you're speaking to me." She went to stand beside her father, ready for the portraits of perfection. Lily watched something fierce and resolute rising inside her. In years of working with deaf children at the hospital, she had seen loneliness, but never a loneliness so profound as Ava's, isolated not by poverty, but by privilege. The evening carried on. Ava smiled at the right moments, nodded at the cues, tilted her head just so. A living wax figure, and still no one truly spoke to her. When the formalities ended, Lily noticed Ava slip quietly from the crowd, through a side door that led to the terrace. Without pausing, Lily followed. Outside, the New York night was cool and tender. The garden terrace was bathed in lantern light, every bush and tree touched with a glow soft as breath. Ava leaned against the stone balustrade, her eyes fixed on the glittering city beyond. Hiding Lily signed as she approached. Ava turned, a relief blooming across her face. Just breathing. Sometimes you need to step away from all those moving mouths. She continued, her hands slow each sign, like an exhale. Lily was about to respond when the door opened again. Victor Langston stepped out. For a fleeting second, his face revealed worry, but it vanished into something awkward when he saw his daughter was not alone. "Ava, it's time to go." His voice was steady, his gaze locked on her. But still, he did not sign. Not one gesture. And in that silence, Lily understood with painful clarity, some distances aren't measured in miles, but in the language never learned. On the garden terrace, where the soft light brushed across Ava's face, Lily felt the weight of an invisible wall rising between father and daughter. The faint smile that had flickered on Ava's lips vanished, replaced by a cool, practiced distance. Lily understood then, if she didn't speak now, the door between them might close forever. "Mr. Langston," Lily said aloud, her hands moving fluidly at the same time so Ava could follow. "I'm Lily Hart. I'm a sign language interpreter, and tonight I've been talking with your daughter. She is truly remarkable." Victor blinked, startled that someone in staff uniform dared step across the invisible line. "Thank you. You're working the event." "Yes," Lily nodded, translating her own words. "But right now, I'm simply someone who thinks you should know. You're losing something irreplaceable by not speaking directly with Ava." His expression hardened. Yet in that fleeting moment, Lily caught a flicker. Perhaps shame, perhaps truth, glimpsed and quickly hidden. Ava froze, her hands pausing midair. Miss Hart, Victor said, lowering his voice. I understand your concern, but my relationship with my daughter, that's private. Lily felt professionalism slipping from her shoulders like a coat that no longer fit. With respect, Mr. Langston communication is never private. It should always be a door left open. Ava's hands moved urgently. Lily stopped. It's all right. No, it wasn't all right. Lily met Victor's gaze. All evening your daughter stood alone while the crowd cheered your generosity. Don't you find that ironic? A flash of hurt flickered in his eyes before the mask returned cold and unyielding. You've overstepped, Miss Hart. Ava, we're leaving. He turned confident she would follow. Ava hesitated, her eyes locking on Lily full of apology. I'm sorry, she signed quickly. He always shuts down when this comes up. Ever since the accident, Lily wanted to ask, but Ava had already turned away. Her last hurried sign lingered, find me at Riversdale Academy. Then she disappeared through the door. Lily stood there heart pounding. She had broken every rule of her profession, dared to confront a man of immense power. And worse, she feared she had made Ava's burden heavier. The next morning, her phone dragged her from restless sleep. A stern voice filled her voicemail. Lily, call me back immediately. There's been a complaint about your conduct at the gala. Her stomach knotted. This was the nightmare she had dreaded. Rent overdue. Student loans piled high. 6 months ago, she'd lost her steady job at a public school when the budget was slashed. Freelance work had promised freedom, but had delivered only instability. She called back with trembling hands. I can explain, she began. Oh, you will, her manager replied crisply. But here's the strange part. Langston's office rang this morning. They specifically asked for you, only you, to come to his private residence this afternoon. Lily nearly dropped the phone. They requested me. I don't know what you did last night, her manager said, dry as paper, but you've caught the attention of one of the city's most powerful men. This could be a big opportunity. Lily, don't mess it up. 3 hours later, Lily gripped the steering wheel, her pulse still unsteady as her car rolled past the wrought iron gates of the Langston estate. The stone driveway curved like a ribbon toward a house of glass and steel mirroring the pale gray sky. The lawn stretched flawless, as velvet trees standing in the perfect lines like silent guards. A butler opened the door. Mr. Langston is expecting you in his study. This way, please. Lily stepped into a vast hallway, its walls hung with paintings, classical tones and heavy gilded frames. Yet among them, one canvas stood out, an abstract eruption of cobalt and gold brushstrokes twisting violently across the canvas like a scream caught and smothered. Lily stopped, her breath catching. The butler noticed Lily's gaze linger on the painting, a swirl of cobalt and gold caught mid-storm. He smiled gently. Ava's work. The girl has a gift. Before Lily could answer, they had reached a set of dark wooden doors. They opened to reveal a study that felt more like a cathedral, floor-to-ceiling glass, framing a lake outside its waters, shifting beneath a pale, clouded sky. At the center of the room, Victor Langston rose as they entered. He nodded once, dismissing the butler with quiet authority. Miss Hart, thank you for coming. His voice was measured precise, like every contract he had ever signed. He motioned for her to sit across from him. Lily obeyed, bracing herself for reprimand, perhaps even a carefully worded agreement of silence. But what he said surprised her. I owe you an apology. She blinked. An apology. The things you said last night. He hesitated as though learning how to shape words anew. Inappropriate perhaps in that setting, but not untrue. Lily tilted her head, watching him. The man who never revealed weakness. Now confessing one. Someone reminded me, he continued, eyes shifting toward the window, that I've failed my daughter in more ways than I care to admit. Lily swallowed. If I spoke too bluntly last night, I'm sorry. It wasn't my place. Perhaps it was exactly your place. He lowered himself into his chair, spreading his hands flat on the desk, as though anchoring himself. You're the professional. That's why I asked you here today. His tone grew steady, like reciting a report he wished he'd never written. Ava lost her hearing in the car accident that also took her mother. She was 7. The doctors told me the damage was permanent. Nothing could restore it. He paused, and Lily remembered Ava's sharp movements the night before, the bitterness when she mentioned surgeries and therapies. I spent 2 years chasing every cure across the globe, Victor went on. I couldn't accept that my daughter would never hear again. And when you finally did accept it, Lily prompted softly. A habit had already taken hold. He grimaced. Interpreters, specialists, tutors, everyone I could pay to speak to her instead of me, because I couldn't bear the helplessness I felt when I looked at my own child. He reached for a frame on his desk, turning it toward her. A younger Victor smiled beside a radiant woman and a laughing little girl. Ava, before the accident. Catherine, he whispered voice, loosening. My wife. She taught Ava sign language as a baby, what they call baby sign. Catherine believed communication took endless forms. She was a pianist, but always said music was just one language among many. Ava mentioned it, Lily said softly. She said the house was once full of music. Victor's eyes flicked up, startled. She still speaks of Catherine. Yes, a little. He set the frame down with deliberate care, as if afraid the memory itself might shatter. After the accident, I couldn't endure music. I sold Catherine's piano. I stopped listening to her favorite pieces. I told myself I was protecting Ava from pain. But truthfully, I was only protecting myself. Lily watched the emotions ripple across his face. Grief, regret, an aching desire to repair what had been broken. The anger she had carried last night softened, replaced by something unexpected compassion. Then why am I here today, she asked gently. Victor straightened businessman once more. I want to hire you, Miss Hart. Not through an agency, direct contract. Her eyes widened. To interpret for Ava. No. His voice was firm, resolute. To teach me sign language, I should have learned years ago. I want to speak to my daughter, directly without a middleman. Lily leaned back, struck silent. That's admirable, Mr. Langston, but learning sign takes patience, time, commitment. It won't be done in a handful of lessons. I know. He leaned forward. I'll commit for at least a year, twice a week, more if my schedule allows. Then he named the fee. Lily's breath caught. The amount could wipe out her rent debt, erase her student loans. But money wasn't the weight pressing against her chest. What unsettled her was the question, could a man who had built an empire on control truly learn to listen with his hands? Before I answer, may I ask you something? Lily tilted her head, folding one hand softly into the other. Why now? What has changed? Victor Langston's eyes softened like thin ice suddenly cracking. Last night, I saw my daughter's face when you spoke to her in sign. I can't remember the last time she looked so alive. And this morning, she left this on my desk. From the drawer, he unfolded a note and handed it to Lily. The slanting script caught her breath. Dad, I know you're angry about last night, but for those 10 minutes someone saw me. Not as Langston's deaf daughter, but simply me. If you truly wish to honor Mum with your hospital donations, then remember what she always said. True healing begins with being heard. I haven't been heard for a very long time. Lily folded the page carefully, her throat tight. I've poured a fortune into my daughter's deafness, Victor said hoarsely. Built wings for her school, funded research, created foundations, but neglected the only investment that mattered. It isn't too late, Lily replied gently. Ava's still young. She hasn't even started university yet. For a moment, pride lit his eyes, then dimmed just as quickly. I don't have forever to undo what's been lost. Lily drew in a breath. Mr. Langston, I'll teach you. But I must be clear. Sign language is not a quick fix. Learning the words is one thing. Rebuilding trust is another. I know, he rose, voice firm again. I'll do whatever it takes. And there's someone else who wants to see you. As if on cue, the door opened and Ava stepped in. Her eyes lit up the moment she saw Lily. You came. Your father invited me. Lily signed back. Ava's gaze darted between them, confusion clouding her face. Why? Victor cleared his throat uneasy. Miss Hart can explain. I have a meeting. Ava, we'll talk later. He left the silence he carried lingering like a heavy cloak. The instant the door closed, Ava's hands flew. What's going on? Were you punished for last night? Lily shook her head, smiling softly. No, none of us are in trouble. Your father has hired me to teach him sign language. Ava froze. Her face registered pure shock. He's going to learn. You're joking. I'm not joking. He seems determined. Ava collapsed into the chair her father had just vacated, hope and doubt tangled in her eyes. He won't stick with it. He never sees anything about my deafness through to the end. Maybe this time is different. Lily leaned closer. Why Ava's fingers sliced the air, each movement sharp with years of disappointment. Because this time, he isn't trying to fix you. He's trying to fix himself. 3 weeks later, Lily sat in Victor's sunlit study, watching him spell each letter with painstaking care. M-E-A-T-E-N-J-A-T-T-Ach-R-A-A. Good, she encouraged speaking and signing together. But there's a single sign for meeting, much quicker. Victor frowned, attempting the gesture with stiff fingers. Hopeless, he muttered, letting his hands drop. I'm too old to learn a new language. You learned Mandarin once for business? Lily reminded him, recalling his file. That was different. I was younger. And it was... He stopped, realizing what he was about to confess. More important, Lily finished for him, her voice calm. He lowered his head, almost ashamed. I meant easier, but you're right. With each session, Lily discovered the man behind the armor, brilliant yet bound by guilt, blinded by grief, lonelier than he would ever admit. Let's try another way, she suggested, not business terms. Say what you really want to tell Ava. Victor stiffened. Like what? I'm proud of you. Every child needs to hear that. His face faltered. She thinks I'm not proud. Have you ever told her directly? Lily asked. The silence was its own answer. She lifted her hands, showing him the sign. I'm proud of you. Victor watched carefully, then mirrored her with surprising grace. Good. Lily smiled. Now try I love you. The simple sign seemed to shake him. He tried it, then turned away, eyes fixed on the window. I haven't said those words to Ava since Catherine died. Why not? Lily asked softly. His mask crumbled. Because every time I look at her, I see Catherine. I see what I lost, what I failed to protect. And Lily understood. The accident. You were driving. He nodded once. The road was slick. A truck swerved. I turned the wheel. We hit the barrier. Catherine died instantly. Ava in the back seat, her auditory nerves destroyed. When she woke, her world was silent. It wasn't your fault, Lily whispered. Try telling that to a 7-year-old who wakes in silence without her mother. His eyes closed, the bitterness spilling. She screamed for hours, raw, tearing screams she couldn't even hear herself. I was helpless. Only drawing calmed her. Pages and pages of darkness. The doctor said it was grief spilling out in color. And now she's an artist, Lily said softly. A true talent. For a heartbeat, pride lit his face. She's been accepted into Harvard Visual Arts. Catherine would have been so proud. The lesson continued, but Lily's thoughts spiraled. The accident explained everything. The guilt that built walls, the money thrown into foundations, the silence filled with absence. All the years Victor had tried to buy redemption, instead of reaching for it with his hands. That afternoon, Lily met Ava at a cafe near Riversdale. Their conversations had become routine, at first about her father's lessons, now meandering into friendship. How's he doing? Ava asked as soon as she sat down. Still terrible. Well, maybe a little better, Lily replied, half serious, half teasing. Ava rolled her eyes. He treats everything like a business deal. Learn, master, move on. What if this is just another project to him? Would it be so terrible if it helped him speak with you? Lily signed. Ava paused, and for a moment, hope glimmered beneath her doubt. Today he told me about the accident, Lily ventured. Ava's hands froze. He's never spoken of it. He still carries the guilt. He should. Ava's signs cut sharp, not for the accident, for the years after, for disappearing when I needed him most. What do you mean? Ava's breath wavered as her hands moved again, spilling the truth she had carried too long. After Mum died, he sent me to a boarding school for deaf children. He only came on parent weekends, always with an interpreter between us. We grew into strangers. By the time I returned home at 15, it was like living with a polite acquaintance, not a father. Lily's heart ached for both of them. Between them lay not only the silence of hearing loss, but the chasm of grief that had never been named aloud. You've never told me why you left your old school, Ava sighed, steering the conversation away. Lily hesitated. A lie would have been simple, but under the bright curiosity of Ava's gaze, her armor fell away. The official reason was budget cuts. But the truth is, I cared too much. My boss said I needed to keep professional distance. What does that even mean? Ava frowned. It means I drove children home when parents forgot them. I fought too fiercely for resources the school said it couldn't afford. They were right, perhaps. I've never been good at keeping emotions out. That's why you confronted my father at the gala. Maybe Lily admitted it wasn't professional, but it was exactly what I needed, Ava replied, her eyes unwavering. Even if my father never changes, you saw me. That matters. Their talk drifted toward art, the one passion that lit Ava from within. When she described her upcoming senior exhibition, her whole face brightened alive with energy. Lily saw it, the same fire she had glimpsed once in Victor's eyes when he spoke about his company. The same flame, only in a different language. You should come to the show next week, Ava signed with a smile. It's at the school gallery. I'd love to, Lily nodded. Will your father be there? Ava's expression faltered. He's invited. He always attends school events, sometimes just to sign checks and shake hands. But he never really looks at my paintings. He thinks it's a hobby, not a calling Lily guessed. Ava nodded. He thinks Harvard Business School would be more practical than art. To him, painting is a luxury. Have you ever told him how much it matters to you? How Ava shook her head. Mostly we only manage conversations about dinner times. Then let your art speak for you, Lily suggested softly. Your paintings are the language he's never learned. Maybe they can build a bridge where words fail. The following Friday, Lily arrived at the Riversdale Gallery half an hour early. Excitement buzzed in the air. Students adjusted frames, unfurled banners, arranged trays of refreshments. Amid the bustle, Ava spotted her immediately and beckoned her to the large wall where her central collection hung. Lily froze when her eyes met the canvases. Colors didn't just sit on the surface, they pulsed like heartbeats. Strokes clashed and chaos softened, then broke apart again. For a moment, Lily couldn't breathe. Ava. These are extraordinary. At the center, a large painting dominated the wall, split into two worlds. One side black and slashed with crimson, chaotic and dark. The other, a slow unfolding into blue and gold order, blooming from disorder. The plaque beneath read simply, "After Silence." It's about the accident. Ava signed, her gaze steady. The moment everything changed. Leaning closer, Lily noticed faint scribbles hidden in the dark half, fragments of sound smudged and broken. In the lighter half, the shapes of hands emerged frozen in sign. Those words are what I remember before the silence, Ava explained. My mother's voice, music, laughter, and the hands. Those are the new language I had to learn to keep living. Lily clasped her own hands tightly, her chest aching with both sorrow and awe. A stir ran through the gallery. Victor Langston had arrived immaculate in a tailored suit, his presence drawing every eye. The headmaster hurried over, guiding him through the polished route-selected exhibits chosen students. Ava stiffened, her face hardening. See, he's always the benefactor, never the father. Lily watched, bracing for the familiar pattern, Victor smiling, writing checks, departing, without ever seeing. But this time, something different happened. Midway down the aisle, Victor stopped. He said something that left the headmaster momentarily startled. Then, abandoning the official path, Victor turned, and he walked straight toward Ava's corner. Ava barely had time to react. She just stood wide-eyed as her father approached, not with the gaze of a businessman surveying an investment, but with the eyes of a man who for the first time was truly seeing his daughter. Your father's coming, Lily signed quickly. At once, Ava straightened her face, closing like a door. She didn't see what Lily had just witnessed, the sudden widening of Victor's eyes as he truly looked at his daughter's paintings. When he read the words, "After Silence," recognition flickered in him like lightning breaking through a storm. And then, the unthinkable happened. In the middle of the glittering crowd, Victor slowly lifted his hands. His movements were halting, clumsy, but unmistakable. Beautiful. I'm proud of you. The gallery froze. Ava stared, her arms hanging useless at her sides. For a heartbeat, Lily feared she would not respond. But then Ava's trembling fingers shaped a single word: thank you. The exchange was brief, heartbreakingly simple compared to all the things they longed to say. Yet, in that simplicity, they saw each other for the first time without armor. And Lily knew something deep had shifted. No one, least of all Lily, could have guessed how fragile that shift would be, how quickly it would fracture when another truth forced them to confront the real cause of their years apart. The exhibition carried on. The art teacher called Ava to guide guests through her work, but Victor remained rooted in place as if he had stumbled on a hidden doorway into his daughter's heart. "You didn't know she was this talented, Lily?" asked softly, moving beside him. "I knew what you'd told me," he admitted, eyes still on the canvas. "But I wasn't ready to believe it. These paintings, they're not just good for a schoolgirl. They're beyond any measure, especially this one, raw honest. You were right. She's been speaking to me through her art for years. And I never listened." His voice dropped. "I've been blind, haven't I?" Before Lily could answer, the gallery lights dimmed slightly. The headmaster stepped forward, his voice ringing clear as he thanked the guests and especially Mr. Victor Langston for his generous support of the school's art program. "And now," the headmaster continued, "it is my great honor to announce the recipient of the Catherine Langston Memorial Scholarship for Excellence in Visual Arts." Lily saw Ava flinch. Clearly she had no idea what was coming. The scholarship, the headmaster explained, was established 5 years ago in memory of Mr. Langston's late wife. It awards one graduate the opportunity to study for a year at the Paris Academy of Fine Arts. A rare and extraordinary chance. Murmurs of surprise rippled through the crowd. This year's recipient, the headmaster, raised his voice, has shown remarkable skill, emotional depth, and vision beyond her years. Ladies and gentlemen, please congratulate Ava Langston. Applause thundered through the room. All eyes turned toward the girl in the blue dress. Ava stood frozen, her face a storm of emotions. Astonishment, confusion, and somewhere the flash of anger. The crowd waited for her to step forward, but instead, Ava turned sharply, striding out of the gallery, leaving the applause faltering into awkward silence. The headmaster stumbled, uncertain, glancing at Victor. "Oh, faux sestor samt." Victor recovered his composure in an instant. He moved to the podium, voice calm, polished. "Thank you for your patience. My daughter is a little overwhelmed. Please give her time." The room softened again, but Lily knew with a certainty that chilled her, the real storm was only just beginning. Victor stepped down from the podium, striding after his daughter's retreating figure, leaving a trail of whispers in his wake. Lily hesitated only a heartbeat before following too, her chest tight with dread. The corridor stretched long and white, leading to an empty classroom. The door stood ajar, and inside Ava's hands cut furiously through the air, every gesture sharp like blades, slicing silence. Victor faced her, his jaw tense, his eyes bewildered, unable to keep pace with the storm of signs. "How could you?" Ava's hands flared, her face ablaze. "To use Mum's name like that? To decide my future without asking? What right do you have?" Victor caught sight of Lily at the doorway, relief flashing helplessly across his face. I can't follow when she signs this fast." Lily stepped forward, her voice steady. "She's angry because you created a scholarship in her mother's name without telling her, and because you've once again made a decision for her." Victor's expression hardened. "I thought she'd be pleased. It's a prestigious opportunity. I don't want to go to Paris." Ava's movements were fierce, Lily voicing the words aloud. "I've been accepted to Harvard. I've prepared for it for years. And you decide I should go to Paris instead. No asking, no listening. Harvard will still be there after a year." Victor argued quickly. "That's not the point." Ava's hands slashed, her anger searing. "The point is, you always do this. All my life, you've decided for me. Always, father knows best. You're the father, so you get to, control me. Send me wherever suits you. Boarding schools, and now, Paris." Victor flinched as if struck. Those schools were to give you the best education, given your circumstances. Circumstances? Ava's eyes blazed. "You mean my deafness, or the fact you couldn't bear to look at me after Mum died?" The accusation landed heavy like a stone sinking into still water. "That's not true," Victor whispered, his voice hollow. "Isn't it?" Ava's hands trembled but relentless. "You sent me away for 9 years, Dad. 9 years. You came only on parent weekends with an interpreter and a stiff smile. Then you disappeared again. Do you know what that feels like? To be 7 years old, suddenly deaf without a mother, and then abandoned by a father, too." Lily translated every word, her heart splintering for both of them. I only wanted to protect you," Victor stammered, his armor cracking at last. "I thought those schools could give you what I couldn't." "And what exactly couldn't you give me?" Ava demanded, her hands trembling with passion. Understanding. Victor broke then utterly. Yes, I couldn't understand you, Ava. I couldn't help. Every time you tried to speak and I couldn't follow, every time you cried and I stood useless. I lost you all over again. Every single day I relived the loss. The words spilled out like a wound torn open raw and unguarded. Ava slowed her hands, deliberate now. Instead of learning to talk to me, you sent me away. You threw money at the problem instead of staying with me. Victor said nothing at first. His head dropped, his shoulders trembling. When he finally spoke, his voice was ragged, broken. I know how it looked. But Ava, I didn't send you away because I didn't want you. I did it because I was terrified. Terrified that if I kept you close, I'd hurt you even more. I was shattered after losing your mother. Drowning in guilt, barely able to breathe. I thought, you'd be better with people who understood you better than I did. Ava's eyes blurred with tears, but her hands kept moving, fragile and resolute. What I needed wasn't experts. It wasn't a substitute community. What I needed was you. Victor took a step forward, then faltered, every muscle taut with hesitation. I don't know how to be what you need. You never tried? Ava signed, her hands slower. Now the fury drained, leaving only an old ache. Victor bowed his head. You're right. I chose the coward's way. By the time you came home, we were strangers. I didn't know how to build a bridge. Ava studied his face. Is that why you're learning sign now? To build the bridge. Yes. The word was short, raw, honest. Silence stretched, filled with a decade of misunderstandings and missed moments. The scholarship Ava signed at last. Did you create it for Mum? Victor nodded. She believed art could heal wounds nothing else could touch. She would be so proud of your gift. Then why Paris? Why now? He looked at the floor, then up again, his eyes bare. Because I saw the Harvard letter. Because I know you're about to leave and I've already lost too much. And I thought if you went to Paris instead of Cambridge, I'd have one more year to learn how to speak to you, before you disappeared from me for good. The confession landed between them, fragile as glass, trembling with longing. Ava's eyes softened. Dad, I was never going to disappear from your life after high school. But I thought you would, Victor whispered, and I wouldn't blame you if you did. Lily stood silently at their side, witness to the first true moment of compassion between them. I don't want to go to Paris, Ava signed again, gentler this time. Harvard is my dream. Victor nodded slowly. Then Harvard it is. The scholarship can go to someone else. Ava hesitated, then signed. But maybe one day we'll go to Paris together. Mom always wanted to take me there. Victor's eyes widened, shimmering. He swallowed hard, then raised his hands. Clumsy, awkward, but determined. I'm sorry I disappointed you. I love you, Ava. Tears spilled down Ava's cheeks as she watched her father shape the words she had waited a lifetime to see. She rushed into his arms, clinging as if letting go meant losing him forever. Victor held her tightly, eyes closed, his own tears falling freely. Over her shoulder, he mouthed a quiet thank you to Lily. Lily slipped away, leaving them their space. As she walked the corridor, her heart filled with a deep, quiet contentment. She had played a small part in healing a wound that had ached far too long. 6 months later, the great hall of Riversdale rang with applause. Students in graduation robes tossed balloons into the air. From the audience, Lily's chest warmed as she watched Ava step onto the stage as valedictorian. She spoke in sign, an interpreter giving her words to the crowd. In the front row, Victor Langston gazed at her, unblinking, his pride impossible to disguise. Ava's speech touched every heart. She spoke of communication, of connection, of the courage it takes to build bridges across divides. But it was her closing words that blurred Lily's vision with tears. In a world that often values only what can be heard, I have learned that the most important conversations happen in silence, in the spaces between words and art, in gestures of love that transcend language. My journey from silence to expression would never have been possible without two people. My mother, who taught me that music still exists for those who cannot hear it, and my father, who learned that love doesn't need sound to be understood. Applause thundered. Lily glanced at Victor, saw his eyes shining unmasked at last. After the ceremony, amid the sea of embraces and congratulations, Ava found Lily radiant with Victor at her side. For the first time, he looked simply human, not a monument, but a father. We have something to show you, Ava signed, her eyes sparkling. Ava gave her father a small nod. Victor pulled out his phone and opened his gallery. On the screen appeared photos of a sunlit room, glass walls spilling light like a river of gold, a table easels paints brushes. Everything waiting, ready to welcome its artist. "I've turned the East Room into your studio," he explained, a quiet pride softening his mouth into a smile. "It will be here whenever you come home from Harvard." "It's beautiful," Lily whispered, her eyes damp. That's not all. Ava signed quickly, her grin radiant. "Dad, tell her the rest." Victor smiled, a rare transformative smile, warm as winter sunlight. "I've created a foundation in your mother's name, the Catherine Langston Foundation for Deaf Education and the Arts. It will fund art therapy, sign language classes, scholarships for deaf students." Ava lifted her chin, pride shining in her eyes. "And every single staff member is required to learn sign language. No exceptions." "That's wonderful," Lily breathed. "You both must be so proud." "We are," Victor said, and his hands moved in tandem, signing the same words. The gestures were still simple, but now smoother, more natural, carrying weight. Then he looked straight at Lily. "We want you to join us, as program director, if you'll accept." Lily blinked, stunned. "Me, director? You mean me?" "Who else?" Ava signed, her eyes bright with conviction. "You're the one who taught us that communication isn't only words. It's truly seeing one another." Lily looked at them both, the young woman radiant and resilient, her hands fluent in the language of art and survival. The man who had once been lost, now learning the most important language of all, love. And Lily knew her answer before she spoke it. "Yes, I'd be honored." She signed the words as she said them, a gesture that opened more than one door. A new chapter, not just for them, but for everyone who had ever longed to be heard. That summer, the city seemed gentler after the long rains. In the glass-walled East Room of the Langston house, sunlight spilled in golden streams across the wooden floor, painting the fresh canvases still fragrant with oil. Ava stood at her easel, her hands stained with color, her gaze steady. No longer the girl known as Victor Langston's deaf daughter, but a young artist speaking in her own voice. Victor often appeared in the doorway, quietly practicing new signs. His hands were clumsy, but his efforts sincere. And for the first time in her life, Ava didn't need an interpreter to stand between her and her father. They had found a language they shared, not just with their hands, but with their hearts. And Lily, she was no longer simply an interpreter, but the director of the Catherine Langston Foundation and the invisible thread binding a once broken family. She witnessed the first sign language classes, the art therapy workshops, the children who grasped paintbrushes instead of words. And somewhere in those moments, Lily believed Catherine must be smiling, her music still alive, though now it sang in another form. Life is rarely perfect, but sometimes, in the most unexpected moments, we find a bridge across silence, across loss. Across the years we thought were wasted. And when hands reach for each other, when eyes finally meet without turning away, love always finds its voice, even without sound. And so, they began a new chapter, not loud, not grand, just simple quiet, yet enough to fill a lifetime.